You done everything for?
Yeah.
Representative Hammer, you recommend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe if the chair wants to hold off, if we're going to have Mr. Stevens come forward, what I'm interested in knowing is if we're going to continue to put money into what we've got, and we're not certain what the cost is going forward. And I think it's part of Mr. Stevens' RFP that we're going to have some Medicaid scrubbing, and for the price that he is covering it for, I'd be interested to hear a joint discussion as to why one is necessary to move forward with the other, and just how those two are going to harmonize so we aren't spending money twice.
Mr. Stevens, would you mind coming forward? I think what we need to know is, are you comfortable that you can give us your scrubbing process will be valid because of the transition period that we're in? You know, I guess what I think it's a valid point is there's no point. I mean, if we're going to scrub the rolls right as we're implementing a system to scrub the rolls, is there any merit? Is the timing right? Are you comfortable that we're going to get real usable data?
Well, part of our team is meeting with the director's team today. I've heard a lot, and we've been working together. So I want to be able to go back to the team and ask them what their thoughts are after the meeting today. I feel that, you know, we could accommodate the, you know, the ones, at least the long-term care, and some of the ones that are already in the system that are not going through the issues right now with redetermination. Maybe we could segregate those off. But again, I'm not, the experts on my team are meeting with his team right now. I'd like to be able to talk to them. And I also want this committee to know that we also have, I have someone on my team who is also very knowledgeable on procurement rules in states, contracting, IT, actually is the bridge for the secretary in Florida for any type of change orders on large IT contracts. She's been meeting all day with the department staff and will continue to. So we're going to be able to also update you on some of the things we're seeing, which is part of our RFP scope, to look at the department's contracting practices and procedures as well.
May I, Mr. Chair?
One more.
What I'm having a hard time getting my mind around is that we're spending multi-million dollars over on this side, and I understand about the federal government change, and I can identify with that. It makes me want to go back and ask them for $25 million for that, honestly. But then, you know, we hear you on this side over here, and that's a big price disparity. So I'm wondering, you know, did we pay somebody to invent something new, reinvent the wheel, or was there something else that was out there that we could have gotten for less money and done just as effective of a job if you're going to be able to come in and do what sounds like basically close to the same thing? And so I'm trying to draw a parallel. What's the differences?
Well, I want to make sure your expectations are met. I mean, we weren't hired to fix the system. We're only hired to look at the data and to tell you when we scrub that data, if we've identified that there are problems in the way what we're seeing in the results, that these determinations, eligibility, actually the first run too, whether or not they overlooked the residency issue. Maybe they didn't look at an asset issue. And we're finding that there are some glaring issues here. The benefit of having our team also working and knowing what the commissioner or the director is doing in his team now is our goal is to provide you with, to make sure as an independent voice, what we think the solution could be going forward. Whether it's working, whether it's going to be consistent with some of the practices nationally, and whether we think you've absolutely filled those gaps and holes. So you're not going to have representative major problems going forward. We're not being asked to fix the system.
Question of the chair. What I'd like to know is, between now and October when it comes out, how much more are we going to spend on the contract that DHS is involved, and would there be any reason or justification to put a pause to that if we could while we wait for Stephen's recommendation, because we may be spending money that we're going to find out in this process wasn't good money to keep spending, if that's a fair question.
Well, I'm not the one making those decisions, but I guess I would ask you, Director Selig, do we anticipate additional contracts or additional costs as you roll forward in the implementation of this between now and October?
We don't anticipate adding anything beyond what we've already committed to, and that's one of the things the governor had us go through, working with Department of Information Systems and others, is what is the stuff that has to be done to meet federal requirements, and he's already had to stop anything else. until we can see, and in fact, he said part of what he wanted to do was see what the task force ended up. He said, because if we go with a different type of program, it may turn out that what we're building for the private option we don't need. So he's asked us to put any of that work on hold and just do what we need to do this year.
To meet your deadline for verification and so on.
Right, that's one of the examples, that's right.
Okay, so to summarize, when do you, time frame on actual operational success?
Right. So we should be able to, by this time next month, come back to you on that 100 to 138% population and give you a pretty good read for how many of those people we're knocking off. We won't ultimately know how many we will, because some of them will still be in that 10-day period, be able to give us information back. And people can, if they don't give it back to us, they can potentially reapply. But we'll be able to come back to you and say, of the first 50,000 people, or 30,000, whatever it is, 10%, 15%, 6%, we sent letters to saying your income doesn't look like it's what we have. You need to give us information. And we'll be able to tell you of those who passed the 10-day period, how many of you got back to us? Because if they didn't get back to us, we'll cut off the program. So we'll have some real numbers for you about what we're seeing, at least with that higher income population. Then we'll work our way down the private option from there.
We'll keep that as an agenda item for a monthly status report on how this process is going. We've got one more question here before we take off. Representative Ferguson.